Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check out the link above to my Patreon page. I'll also put the link down below in the description. I'm here with a replay of a Modern League, but before I jump into the gameplay, I want to show you guys the list that I ran in this league. It's quite a bit different from the previous list that I ran. I've just been experimenting a lot because the format is really in flux right now, and I think Merfolk pilots should all be exploring different approaches to the metagame and trying to figure out, exactly what works best because things change and we have to adapt. So for me, Master of Waves is out for the time being. Plague Engineer looks like it's here to stay in the format, and Master of Waves is just really poor against Plague Engineer. Whereas in the past, Master of Waves could dig us out of a hole against a deck like Jund. Now, if they have a Plague Engineer on the board, we can't even cast Master of Waves. He'll just die and go straight to the graveyard. So rather than run cards that can be liabilities in important matchups, like the Jund matchup, which pops up pretty much at least once per league, has been my experience, I've chosen to go a different route. Instead running Merrow Reejereys because they increase our creature's toughness, which obviously helps against Plague Engineer. Another card that's pretty powerful in Jund right now is Renin 6. That card can pick off our 1 toughness creatures like Benthic Biomancer and Silvergill Adept. So we want a bunch of Lord effects. In the case of my build here, we've got 12 Lords. To get those guys' toughnesses up to the point where they're not just going to die to Renin 6 or Plague Engineer or Liliana the Last Hope, Lava Dart. There's a lot of effects right now that just ping creatures in the format. So running extra Lords seems like a good place to be. However, without Master of Waves, we're sort of left without a way in the deck to take advantage of all of our blue devotion. And I wanted to bring back Thassa because she's a great way to take advantage of the blue devotion in our deck. And at the same time, she's really excellent against Jund because they don't have anything in the deck that can deal with her. So if she can get onto the battlefield and stick around as a creature, it sort of can stop their attacks. And if we can just, keep 1 or 2 creatures on the board, we can start attacking unblockable and hopefully close out games like that. However, because Jund and other decks right now in Modern run so much removal, it can be difficult to keep enough devotion on the board. If we just have an empty board, play Thassa, it's great to scry every turn, but with them lightning bolting every creature that we play, or Liliana making us sacrifice each creature, it can be virtually impossible to turn Thassa into a creature. So in this particular build, I've chosen to go with an additional 3 Seize effects with 3 Seize claims. So this card is actually quite strong with Thassa because if you get down any 2 Seize claims effects, like Seize Claim or Spreading Seize onto the battlefield, all you need to do is draw into any one of our double blue Merfolk, so either of the Lords or a Merfolk Trickster, and then Thassa is immediately woken up into a creature, turned on, so to speak, and can start attacking alongside with whatever other creatures that we're drawing. So it's great in those matchups, those attrition matchups where they're getting rid of all of our creatures, because we often just need to draw 1 more creature, and that's where you want to be able to turn Thassa on. If you're at a point with Thassa where you need 2 more creatures to ever turn her into a creature, you're not going to get full value out of her. So the Seize effects just combining with Thassa really, really well to add devotion and make it that much easier for her to turn into a creature. So apart from the 3 Seize claims and the 2 Thassas, still got the sort of Merfolk core, no other particularly strange cards. One thing that trimming Master of Waves does that I quite enjoy for the deck is it allows us to run 19 lands instead of 20. The land that I've chosen to trim is actually one of the 4 Waterlogged Groves. There are many situations in Modern where we don't really want to ping ourselves. There's a lot of fast matchups. So up to this point, I've been a fan of running 4 of them. And it can still be correct to run 4 Waterlogged Groves, but if I have to trim one of our 20 lands, I'm leaning towards trimming a Waterlogged Grove. So I could change my mind in the near future if I seem to want more of these lands. But for the time being, 3 has worked out pretty well. And then as far as the sideboard goes, again, trying to shore up our Jund matchup. In particular, I've got a couple of Kiras. This card obviously helps a lot against any deck running removal. Like blue-white control, Kira can be really excellent. The plan against them with this kind of a build is just get down a Benthic Biomancer and adapt it, so it's a 2/2. Maybe get down a Silvergill Adept, and then just attack them for 2 damage, 4 damage, 2 damage, whatever. Make them spend their Path to Exiles on these less important creatures. And then once we've gotten to a point in the game where we're both kind of low on cards, you just slam a Kira, and now all of a sudden, they need to basically 2-for-1 themselves in order to deal with our threat. And at that point, their life total should be like maybe 6 or 7 or lower. And Kira is a real threat because she only needs to attack maybe 2 or 3 times to close out the game. So don't run her out too early because, you run the risk of getting her wiped away by a Supreme Verdict alongside, those early Merfolk that you played. Save her until later in the game where it's going to be quite difficult for the opponents to find the resources to get rid of her. So past Kira, which is really excellent in the Jund matchup, as I mentioned, we've got 3 Dismembers to deal with those Plague Engineers, 2 Echoing Truths, versatile card, gets rid of those Ensnaring Bridges and Worships, 2 Deprives. I've obviously trimmed back from 4. I don't think that we need to be running 8 counterspells right now. 6 is typically sufficient. 3 Relics, it could be 4. It's very good against Jund, but I want to make space for some of the other high-impact cards, like Phyrexian Revoker, which really helps in very difficult matchups like Devoted Druid and all of the different artifact decks, like both Affinities and the Urza combo deck. You can name so many different things with Phyrexian Revoker. So the deck has been feeling pretty strong. Force of Negation still doing tons of work. So why don't we go ahead and jump into round 1 of this league. All right, so I'm here with the first game of round 1 of this Modern League. The opponent is going to be on the play. Fortunately, we draw a really, really beautiful hand. We've got a 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop with Counterspell backup. So if this is like Neoform, for example, we just win on turn 1 with Force of Negation. Misty Rainforest, into Steam Vents, into Serum Visions. So could be Storm, but it's much more likely to be like Blue-Red Phoenix. That deck is extremely popular right now. Mutavault is okay. If it is Phoenix, it's a creature that doesn't get bounced by Thing in the Ice. So we'll run out an island to get Benthic Biomancer onto the table. So if it is Thing in the Ice, we're happy to not see it on turn 2. So if an opponent is holding up removal mana, typically you just want to play a land with Benthic Biomancer on the battlefield and then go straight to combat. If the opponent tries to remove him, we can get value by adapting him. In this case, I would most likely just loot away one of my islands and hopefully draw more gas. But the opponent doesn't remove Benthic Biomancer. And at this point, I'll go ahead and run out Silvergill Adept, revealing one of these Reejereys. So Benthic Biomancer, a little bit awkward here because next turn we'd love to be able to play a 2-drop and Benthic Biomancer, but we only have the Reejereys in hand. Let's see what the opponent is working with. So there's that Thing in the Ice, and they're going to pass with Spire Bluff Canal up. So yeah, this loot might come in handy to pitch one of these islands. So this is a bit of a tricky spot because Spire Bluff Canal is just representing Bolt so hard. But we've got double Reejereys, so let's go ahead and play it out. If the opponent does have a Bolt for Reejerey, sort of so be it. We've got more gas in the tank, and we've got a Force up for their turn. And if they don't remove the Reejerey, then obviously we can get a lot of value out of it next turn. Try to swing for 5. Opponent's going to block the Silvergill. And they take 2. So it looks like they didn't have the Bolt for Reejerey. So, they go for Thought Scour on the end step. That's going to remove a counter from Thing in the Ice and put some stuff in their graveyard. So we get a chance to see a little bit more about what they're working with. Fortunately, a lightning bolt went into the graveyard rather than to their hand. And they go for Finale of Promise, which would let them recast Serum Visions and a Lightning Bolt. So that is a very easy target for Force of Negation. Even though we have to 2-for-1 ourselves, we're also going... well, it's not really a 2-for-1, it's like a 2-for-2, I guess I should say. We're going to pitch a card, and we're going to stop them from resolving 2 spells. So I exiled Benthic Biomancer. We already have one on the battlefield, and I'd much rather keep this Reejerey. So keep drawing lands. Obviously not optimal here. Thought a little bit and ran out the Reejerey. Decided it was time to go for a big attack. We get to activate Mutavault and swing in with the team. So opponent blocks one of our 3 power creatures and takes 11, going from 14 down to 3. Putting a ton of pressure on the opponent because from this position, if they bounce our team, all we have to do is play a land, play a Reejerey, activate Mutavault, swing for 3. They're going to start with Sleight of Hand, almost certainly going to bounce our team quite soon. Looks like they're going to pass to our turn to wait to do that. So Drusi's Claim, not the highest impact card in this position. Now, the opponent is super dead on board, so if they're going to bounce our team, we might as well just go ahead and attack and let them do that. These situations are typically pretty nice because with 1 counter, none of our creatures are susceptible to removal, because if they try to bolt a Reejerey, it would get bounced back to my hand before the bolt would resolve. Virtually any thing in the ice player is going to know that interaction, so they tend to send lightning bolts at our face, but it's just something to keep in mind when you just make a big attack like this. If the opponent doesn't have an instant, we're going to just win, but they do have a Thought Scour, of course. That's why they pass the turn, and our team will get bounced here. Thought Scour will resolve. And in this spot, we're just going to want to rebuild our board. They're not going to be able to bounce again anytime soon, so let's get a Reejerey out. Jam Silvergill. Maybe we can draw another Benthic Biomancer and run out 2 guys. Okay, so he's going to bolt the Reejerey before we can get any more value out of him, which is sort of fine. Again, the opponent is at 3, and drawing that Lord is pretty awesome. It's going to be just really, really hard for the opponent to stop our attacks. Okay, opponent opens with Faithless Looting, pitching an Arclight Phoenix, another Faithless Looting, so that's the 2nd spell this turn, pitching an Aria Flame, plays a Scalding Tarn, and a Lightning Bolt on Silvergill Adept. So they're going to get back this Aria Flame, the Arclight Phoenix, but they're not really in a position where they can attack. They're holding up Scalding Tarn, so that's 1 point of damage if they crack it. And so for my turn, I draw Thassa, which is a pretty good draw, but I don't know that the game is going to last much longer than 1 turn, so I think we just want to play Reejerey, and then Lord, and just present a sort of overwhelming amount of damage, particularly with Island Walk. So I played the Lord and they scooped. I guess Island Walk was enough. Now, if they did have a bolt in this position to be able to... I was going to untap a land, or rather, what was I going to do here? I believe I was going to untap a land and activate Mutavault, but another choice would be just to tap his Awoken Horror, because then if we get in with Benthic Biomancer and he removes the Lord, the Benthic Biomancer would still be a 2/2, and the opponent would sort of be priced into... Well, they'd have to block with the Arclight Phoenix because they would have taken 1 life at least from cracking Scalding Tarn. So pretty strong position, and the opponent didn't have any more removal. You can see that there's already 3 lightning bolts in the graveyard, and my creature's toughness is getting to the point where Lava Dart can't really cut it. Like if they had a Lava Dart in hand, they could kill the Reejerey right now with the Lord on the stack, but this Lord is really the one they need to worry about. Because if they responded by getting Lava Dart and killing Reejerey, I would have used Reejerey's trigger to untap a land and then be swinging for I guess 5 Island Walk or something like that. So great game 1 for Merfolk. Let's go ahead and see how game 2 went. Now, I should say that this is clearly not one of the best matchups for this 7 Seas build that I'm on, so I'm going to be taking all of the Seas out in game 2. So let's go ahead and have a look at how that game went. Okay, back for game 2. Let's take a quick look at the sideboard. I did definitely take out all 7 Seas. And then past that, because I had, I guess, 10 good cards to bring in, the next 3 that I took out were Benthic Biomancers. Those cards can, I should just say Ben can do a great job pushing early damage in this matchup, but it's also really weak to Lava Dart, and we don't want to be trading off our creatures so easily. So 10 cards out, and then I believe I brought in 2 Kiras, 2 Echoing Truths, 3 Dismembers, and then 3 Relic of Progenitus. So a lot of good cards to bring in the matchup. All right, this is a beautiful hand. Let's see if the opponent can handle it. Steam Vents untapped into Serum Visions. And then for our turn, we drew a Relic. Wonderful draw. We can get that thing going right away. Opponent plays Scalding Tarn and passes, so pretty slow start from them. No thing in the ice. And Kira is quite good. Though in this matchup, we really want to have access to AEther Vial, because if they bounce the team with Thing in the Ice, it can be really difficult to rebuild, especially with all these 3 drops. So I'm going to go ahead and risk running out a Lord here. If they have removal, they have removal. I can't really afford to just wait and run out Kira and not do much this turn. Okay, so they're going to Thought Scour and then Thought Scour again. Okay, not much relevant to put into the graveyard. Okay, so they had Magmatic Sinkhole on their main phase to deal with the Lord. Echoing Truth can be pretty good in this matchup. If it bounces an Aria of Flame, they have to replay it and give us 10 more life. So I'm going to trim their graveyard, play our 3rd land, and then run out Thassa. Now, Thassa comes out before Kira for a couple of reasons. First, we want to get Thassa's Scry going as soon as possible. And second, if we can establish Devotion quickly, then Thassa can start attacking as quickly as possible. Also, Kira has nobody to protect right now, so there's no real reason to run out Kira yet. Hopefully we'll get a lot of value off of Thassa's Scries. We've got these 2 counterspells to sit behind. Okay, so Saheeli, I believe this comes out of the sideboard in these decks to combat creature strategies, because it creates servos every time they cast a non-creature spell. So that's definitely worthy of a counter. And I'm going to pitch the Echoing Truth, because there is another Echoing Truth in the deck, and we don't see an Aria yet, so it seems like the weakest card in our hand. I'd love to be able to continue to hold up the second Force of Negation. So let's start the Scry value going, and that Lord looks great, so I'll keep that on top. And for this turn, I think I'll just play out Kira. And pass to the opponent's turn with this second Force of Negation available. So they go for the Lava Dart on Kira. And then what is the strategy here? So Finale of Promise. Now tapping out like that is great because it's going to just allow me to counter this, keeping Kira alive, protecting the devotion that we're starting to establish for Thassa. And yeah, just preventing the opponent from getting any value off this Finale. So it kind of hurts to have to pitch a Lord, which was going to make Thassa alive, but Kira was about to die, and we really want to try to protect her. All right, untap. Island goes to the bottom. You can see the value that Thassa brings. She turned an island into a Reejerey, which is really quite wonderful. So I'm going to... I cracked... I'm sorry, how did that... What did we just do there? Oh, I cycled the Relic because I would love to draw a 2-drop and start attacking with Thassa, but as it went, I whiffed and drew another Reejerey. So we can get in for 2 here, and we feel decently well positioned, depending on what the opponent draws. They're only on 3 cards. Okay, so hard casting an Arclight Phoenix, and they don't attack. We get to scry with Thassa again. Let's get rid of that island, and these Reejereys are super awkward. If you can imagine, any of our 2-drop lords or Trickster would be amazing here because, well, Trickster, for example, could tap down the Arclight Phoenix, and then we're swinging with Kira and Thassa for 7 this turn. Instead, we can pretty much only play out a Reejerey, and I'm definitely not going to attack with Kira here. Okay, opponent has another Arclight Phoenix, so we don't really have to worry about overextending at this point. They get in with the 2 Arclights, and it's sort of fine by me. Okay, let's scry again. Another island has to go to the bottom, and we draw another island, so these have been really awkward scries. I even drew a card with the cycled Relic, and yeah, we're having a hard time getting things going here. But this turn I can cast a Reejerey. I'm going to untap a land so that I can cycle Waterlogged Grove if I want to do that. And this turn I do get to attack. I left back Kira because I thought I might potentially want to block one of these Arclight Phoenixes. Now, in hindsight, I think I probably should have attacked because I don't think I block in this spot. So it's not terrible leaving Kira back, not at all. If the opponent opened up for whatever reason with like some burn or something like that, then clearly I would love having Kira back as a blocker. Another situation where I might want to block with her is if the opponent played a 3rd Arclight Phoenix. Then I would probably block 1, take 6, and expect that the opponent might have like 1 bolt in hand, in which case I would take 9 for the turn. But I'd really prefer not to block with Kira because she is the only thing on the board that has 2 devotion. If she dies, Reejerey by itself is not going to turn Thassa back on. And the way that things stand right now, as long as I get out of this turn with 1 life, I get to just attack with Thassa unblockable next turn for lethal. So a lot to think about really in this spot. The opponent just goes straight to combat, which seems to make sense. And again, in hindsight, in this particular attack, I do not think I should have blocked, but I did block. And it's just a mistake because they have 3 cards in hand, and with those 3 cards, they need to have some combination that would do 5 damage to me. And there's so many cards in their deck that don't do damage, right? There's Thing in the Ice, there's Monomorphose, there's all of their cantrips, Sleight of Hand, Serum Visions, and with only 3 cards in hand, I should not be putting them on the possibility of having like 2 bolts. And if they have it, they have it. But we have the win on board. I guess what I was thinking is, okay, I can still scry and almost certainly find one of those 2 mana creatures. But I did block. Shields down, Thassa is offline. Opponent has a Saheeli and I have no counterspell. They follow up with Monomorphose. Another Monomorphose. And they have 1 Lightning Bolt to deal with one of the Reejereys. But as I mentioned, to kill me, they would have needed 2 Lightning Bolts. And it's pretty clear that they don't have that second bolt. So, pretty much a strict misplay. It can't be argued that blocking with Thassa was correct there. It made my creatures vulnerable, it took Thassa offline, and it just didn't play to the math. With 3 cards in hand, we should not have put the opponent on 2 bolts. In fact, they didn't have it. And in this situation now, it's nearly impossible, if not just completely impossible, to turn Thassa back online. So Mutavault has to go to the bottom, and we draw Benthic Biomancer. So in this spot, might as well go ahead and run out this Reejerey. Now that's 3 devotion. I'm going to untap a land. Something I didn't mention yet is that I chose at the end of the turn not to cycle Waterlogged Grove. That would have drawn me into the Benthic Biomancer, which I could still have played this Reejerey and cast Biomancer with just the 3 lands. There was really no excuse to not cycle the Waterlogged Grove. I think I was just a little bit loose, a little bit worried in this spot, kind of playing scared. So I only have 1 3 toughness creature that can attack. And so, you know, I do the best that I can. So remember, we've had multiple scries with Thassa. We got basically like 2 Reejereys and an island, and then a Benthic Biomancer. We've completely whiffed on any more double blue spells. Could have drawn another Kira in this spot, but as it went, you know, we just kind of kept coming up short. Opponent starts by cycling a Fiery Islet into Monomorphos, generating mana, generating servos. And they go ahead and turn one of their servos into an Arclight Phoenix with using Saheeli's minus ability. And they have the bolt. So in this spot, we're going to take 6 and then 3 more. Going down to -1. They actually didn't need to do this, I don't think. They could have kept the Arclight Phoenix as a servo. They could have done 3 and then 3 more in the air, which means that they only have to do 2 around the edge. And I'm pretty sure that I thought that they had it around my blocks. If there were 3 servos, they can deal 1 more. 3/3. Regardless, they turned the Arclight, one of the servos into an Arclight Phoenix, and they got me. So as I mentioned, I pretty much had this game. Kira was protecting Thassa's Devotion. The opponent needed 2 bolts to win, and it took them 2 turns to find that second bolt. And I gave them that extra turn. So hopefully you guys can learn something from my misplay here. I know I did. If you've got the win on board and the opponent has to have a certain combination of cards to have a chance at winning, you should almost just let them have it. Let them, you know, force them to have it. Because we already knew that we had it. I could have just paid 2 mana and Thassa as a 5/5 would have just waltzed past any blockers. So unfortunately, this has to go to a game 3. Let's see how that one went. All right, back with game 3. I'm going to be on the play. It's a pretty nice opening hand. We do love to have Aether Vial in this matchup against Thing in the Ice. I'd prefer one of these Aether Vials to be something else. But better 2 Aether Vials than none. Scalding Tarn go. Aether Vial goes up to 1. Reejerey is nice. Like drawing gas in this spot. I'm going to just pass the turn here, and when the opponent cracks their fetch land, I'm going to use the window of opportunity to vial in Benthic Biomancer and adapt him so that they can't Lava Dart him or bolt in response to the adapt. I get to pitch this Aether Vial. And drawing into another Lord is pretty nice. We just have to kind of hope that they don't have removal for the Aether Vial, and we should be golden. One play Spire, Bluff Canal. Monomorphos, so not too threatening yet. This could, you know, go Serum Visions, Faithless Looting, pitching 2 Arclight Phoenixes, and then we'd be racing. Now this was stunning. The opponent had the Abrade, and they chose to kill my 1-drop creature instead of my Aether Vial, which is effectively like destroying 2 lands. So instead of destroying 2 lands, or they just decided to, I already got value out of Benthic Biomancer. So totally unjustifiable decision by the opponent there. Really terrible play, and it gives me a chance at least to keep fighting in this game. So Aether Vial will go up to 2. I breathe a sigh of relief that I get to continue playing with the Aether Vial, and that land is right on time because it lets me play this Reejerey. And soon I can start dumping my hand onto the board. If we can get all these Lords out, they're going to be resistant to like Bolt plus Anger. Faithless Looting just pitches a couple of lands, and the opponent plays a Thing in the Ice. Reejerey is actually really excellent in this matchup if it gets to live, because it lets us redeploy our team really fast because we get all the value of tapping and untapping as we cast our Merfolk. So we're going to get our whole board down here. That Mutavault is beautiful because it's an extra attacker. We're going to cast a Lord. Untap an island, kind of unnecessary. And then swing in. Actually, I'm sorry. The reason that I did that was cast it instead of Aether Vialing it. Is that I want to have Aether Vial up if the opponent bounces my team on their turn, because then I can redeploy a Lord right away. Opponent cracks a Scalding Tarn, going down to 8. And they go for Finale of Promise. X equals 2. They get to cast a Monomorphose and a Faithless Looting. A Braid, not the best choice at this point, since, well, you know what? I say that, but a Braid would actually be a pretty solid choice because the opponent wants to keep me from reestablishing my team, and Aether Vial is an excellent way for me to immediately reestablish my team. All right, so they get a whole bunch of triggers off of Finale and then Monomorphose and Faithless Looting. Okay, so team's getting bounced. Still have Aether Vial at the ready. Opponent's below 5 minutes. Here's an Arclight Phoenix. They crack in for 10. I'm not particularly concerned. I could chump block with a Mutavault, but they're at 8. And between this Lord and the Mutavault, we're going to be able to deal way more than 8 damage. So take Aether Vial up to 3. It's going to get my Reejerey back on the table. And you guys, you know, playing Merfolk, you know how this is going to go. Play out the Lords, untap lands. We get to swing in with a 6 power and a 5 power for 11 damage. Not sure the opponent saw that coming. And the opponent took a really long time sort of staring at my attack. I don't think, you know, they thought we could win on this turn. And I bounced Oboro back to my hand just to sort of poke the opponent for taking so long. Anyhow, my slight misplay at the end of game 2 in blocking with Kira was rewarded with the opponent misplaying with their Braid, and I was able to crush them with 4 Lords. So pretty exciting round 1 against Blue-Red Phoenix. Obviously, the matchup not rewarding me running 7 Seas, but I was still able to take game 1, even with all of those Spreading Seas effects in the main deck. And then we got there with all of our Lords in game 3. So please leave your thoughts down below in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. And please take a moment and check out my Patreon page if you'd like to support these videos that I make. I'll see you guys in the next one, where I'll be back with round 2 of this Modern League. I'll see you there. Bye.